Indigenous leaders in Victoria are preparing for tough conversations as they formally begin treaty negotiations. Victoria political reporter Simon Love is in Melbourne. Simon, interesting parallel to what we're seeing federally and the failure of the voice, that this parallel path in Victoria is cracking on at speed.
Yeah, and they're pushing on with these treaty negotiations. There'll be a ceremonial opening, a kinship and trade ceremony, where the Premier Jacinta Allan will be welcomed by traditional owner groups, particularly the Wurundjeri tribe, and they'll be welcoming other clans from across Victoria to this formal ceremonial start of treaty talks. We're in the Darebin Parklands, just northeast of the Melbourne CBD, and it'll be quite a moving moment when these talks do get underway. Of course, this is a different stance to what other state governments are doing around the country, with Queensland winding back its truth-telling process in the wake of the election up there, and also South Australia looking at a voice to Parliament, but not quite at the treaty process like Victoria is. But the Premier says that there is a lot to gain out of this process.
I will leave it to other heads of government and other politicians to explain why they are taking a different path to Victoria. The path I'm committed to, the path I'm determined to walk on with First Peoples in this state, is the path towards treaty. And why I am so determined to walk on this path is because I am guided by the evidence.
The formal talks will actually get underway early next week, and the Premier's delegated public servants and officials to represent the government at those talks. As to what sort of topics are on the table, things like land, education, other matters that are of interest, particularly closing the gap to the Indigenous community. And both parties acknowledge there will be some tough discussions.
Today is an historic day for our state, for our strong Victorian community. And it's historic because we're about to embark on treaty negotiations that will make our strong state even stronger, even fairer, even more equal.
There's going to be some tough conversations we'll need to have, but we're confident we'll be able to have those conversations in a respectful way, and we'll be able to deliver a treaty which will deliver powerful outcomes for our communities, powerful outcomes for all Victoria.
Earlier this year, the state coalition winded back its support for a treaty. So the Premier and the First Peoples Assembly say there's not necessarily a timeline on these talks, but no doubt there'll be hope for an agreement before the next state election in 2026, and so that legislation can be taken to the Parliament. John Pesciuto, the opposition leader here in Victoria, has stated that he wants to see all the detail transparently out there before the next state election, Kieran.